ones that will be carrying out the assassination, because the Jesuits always carry out their assassinations up close and personal. There can be no chance of escape. So no final kill shots are going to be done with a rifle. So the Secret Services are going to do the close-up shooting. There will be long-distance CIA shooters. There will be FBI covering up evidence. There will be Dallas police further covering up evidence. There will be the sheriff covering up evidence and suppressing those in his office who would want to do something about it. So, but these are all low-level guys. The high-level guys from Washington, ultimately from New York, from the CFR. The Pentagon is controlled by the Council on Foreign Relations in New York City. The CFR controls all of our military heads, and thus whatever order is given by the Archbishop of New York through his knights to the Council on Foreign Relations to the Pentagon, then that's what will be carried out in Dallas.
Okay. So the motorcade has made that fateful turn in front of the book depository. What is the sequence of events then from that point? Who does what?
Okay. The route was changed at the last minute. Mm-hmm. It was not supposed to take that hairpin turn. And so they turned right on Houston and they turned left on Elm. And I tend to think whoever created what's that? The Freddy movies on Elm Street.
Right.
That was named after the JFK assassination. So, I mean, they have their inner humor among themselves, when they control Hollywood.
Okay.
So they turn on Elm, and as I understand it, there was one shot from the records building, which was a rifle shot. There was one shot from the school book depository, which, of course, Oswald did not do that. There were Cubans in that, 6-4 also. There was one shot from the Daltex building. There was one shot from the grassy knoll, from what I understand, and the next shot to Kennedy. There was one shot from the drain that William Greer pulled right up in front of. Mm-hmm. And then, as I believe, there was one shot from the driver, William Greer. So you have many, many different shooters. But the kill shots, you have the distractionary shots or the long-distance shots from the buildings in the background. According to a particular gentleman in a book that he wrote called, it considers the assassination for that day. Anyway, he says that George Hickey fired his M16, who was a Secret Service agent, and actually accidentally shot Kennedy in the back. I don't think that was an accident. I think he did do it. Anyway, you have those shooters. So what I believe happened was Kennedy is brought into the kill zone. You have all these distractions. And what the key parts to me are these, that the shot from the grassy knoll was a distraction. There was smoke that came out of the rifle that would cause everybody's attention to be looking at the grassy knoll.
Which is unusual because guns don't generally... Gunpowder, even in the 1960s, didn't smoke.
We've had smokeless gunpowder for 100 years.
Yeah.
So there's no reason to use any kind of a shot that's going to produce smoke.
You almost have to go back to a musket to create that kind of a...
That's right. That's black powder stuff. Sure.
Right.
So anyway, that is a very telltale sign that it was deliberate so that it would be seen to draw attention away from some other place. The other thing is, as Zapruder is filming this, and remember, Abraham Zapruder is a 32nd degree Jewish Freemason, and
really?
He's a contract agent for the CIA. Yes, he is.
Really?
Yes, sir. Zapruder was a contract agent for the CIA, and he was contracted to be there to take this film. He was being steadied by his secretary behind him, steadying his arm so that when the shots are ringing out, he wouldn't lose his focus. And so what Zapruder does is as he's taking these pictures, he's using his 8mm camera, he's deliberately keeping his camera high so as not to get lowering, taking a picture of the entire broad side of the limousine, which would include the sidewalk. Mm-hmm. Because one of the shots is proceeding out from the drain in the curb, which the drain was approximately 18 inches high, according to two sources that I know who were there in Dallas, Penn Jones and my friend Lenny Bloom, or Nelson Thal. They were there. They walked the whole thing. And from behind the picket fence, they could walk down a concrete step underground and come to this drain, and they could stand right in this drain and have a perfect view of the limousine coming right up to them. And that's why Greer nearly stops his limousine. He's delivering the limousine up to the killer in the drain, in the storm drain. And this is exactly the position of Penn Jones, who had the Moldova mirror, and this is exactly the position of Jim Garrison at the time. That the grassy knoll shooter did not fire the kill shot. It was this drain shooter.
I've seen an examination of photographic evidence from the day using some high-tech imaging showing that's able to reveal three-dimensional imagery from the two-dimensional film that was taken of the moment of the shooting, and it was determined that based on forensics, the only angle that could have produced that kill shot was the one, at least it was the one coming from a low angle, such as the drain along the side of the street there.
Yes, I'm convinced that it was a simultaneous shot from the drain and from the driver. That's what it appears to me. And I'll tell you why. For the drain, no problem. As you look at that Kennedy's head, it explodes.
Yes.
And there's actually debris going up. And then the motorcycle rider, Mr. Hargis, is splattered with blood and bone marrow, bone matter. So that he's back and to the left, and so this would betray the trajectory coming from the drain just perfectly.
Yeah, which would have been down and to the right from where President Kennedy was seated in the car.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
And there was a .45 slug found, according to Deputy Sheriff Roger Craig, found in the grass on the other side of the curb in blood and brain matter.
A .45 slug.
A .45 slug. That's
which you don't fire from a rifle.
Which you don't fire from a rifle, unless you got a Thompson machine gun. That's a .45, but oh no. So that shows that there was a shot coming from the direction and low into from the right, and that it fits perfectly to the drain. And this was Jim Garrison's position and Penn Jones's position. And so, since those men were there, I believe them. But there was no way to identify the shooter in the drain. That's why they could go with him exclusively. The other thing is, I do believe that the driver did do the shooting also, because there were several witnesses to that who simply disappeared. The cameras were confiscated, and there was blood and bone material on the back of the trunk of the limousine, which is not in agreement with a shot low and from the right.
You're right.
So,
okay.
So and according to Robert Grodin, he put forth a movie once, and it showed how the bullet entered above the right eye to the right of the right eye, and this is shown in David Lifton's work. It actually shows the bullet hole before the head was doctored at Bethesda, before it arrived at Bethesda. It shows that the actual bullet hole entry, and then of course the big opening at the temple, but then the huge exit wound on the right rear portion of his skull, of his head. So that trajectory comes from the driver. So you have a driver shot coming that way, as William Cooper rightfully proved. He took great efforts to prove that. And also the former head of the John Birch Society, coordinator of the John Birch Society, Dr. Stuart Crane, who taught at Bob Jones University for many years, he said the driver did it. And the other one, a Roman Catholic attorney in Washington, D.C., by the name of Dr. Peter Beater, he had a series of audio letters, and I have half of them. And one of his audio letters, he goes into this, and he says that the president was shot from inside the vehicle. So I tend to believe that the shooting was done from the driver, and this is why the driver was not blamed for all those years, because he died in 1985. William Greer died in 85, and if he was accused of that, you can know there would have been serious problems for the open accuser. So there was a simultaneous shot from the driver. This is why he turns around the very moment Kennedy's head explodes. He's looking at Kennedy in film 313 the very moment his head explodes. And I say this is why Jackie wanted to get out of the car, because she thought she's next.
Now, Eric, the Zapruder film has been around for a long time. And you do see the driver turn around. You don't see the gun clearly. It's really hard to make out from the film that driver Greer has anything in his hand.
Well, it looks like there's a reflection off Kellerman's head.
Right.
That's what it looks like. And I say that's a doctoring that was deliberately done to the film. The man who wrote Behold a Pale Horse, William Cooper, went into very much effort, took a lot of effort and finance to have the Japanese analyze the film. And he said that after their analysis, that most assuredly the driver did the shooting. So I say William Cooper was the finest authority, the best digger on this issue of Greer doing the shooting. And he said that he saw private records from Navy intelligence that Greer did in fact do the shooting. And remember, Greer is a former Navy SEAL. He's a crack shot.
But of course, at that distance, at that distance, he would
only 5 to 6 feet away. It's point blank, and this is my point. The Jesuits always do their killing whenever it involves the poison, the leaden bullet, at close point blank range.
So now, how would the Zapruder film have been doctored?
Who would do this? Well, very intriguingly, the film was purchased. I understand there were 3 films that were made. 2 were given to the Secret Service. 1 was retained by Abraham Zapruder. The films were purchased by Henry Luce of Time Life, and he paid $150,000 for the film that he got. Who, as you mentioned, was a Knight of Malta. And he was a Knight of Malta. Now we see the cover-up beginning with the Knights of Malta. Of course, there's the cover-up when the telephones go out in Washington for an hour. That's accomplished by the Knights of Malta through Francis Flanagan, who was the head of IT&T at the time. Right? So the Knights of Malta are maintaining the cover-up because greater is the power to maintain the cover-up than to carry out the assassination. So Henry Luce, head of Time and Life, purchases the Zapruder film for $150,000. And remember that Luce is the head of Rockefeller Center. Rockefeller Center is across the street from St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York City. Therefore, he's a hop, skip, and a jump away from Archbishop Spellman. And so they are suppressing this film, and so they doctor the film, and they cut certain particular frames out of the film, and they want to make it look like he was shot from behind. They did all kinds of cutting on the film, which was a crime. So it was loose, and of course he's affiliated with the CIA. So it's the CIA that's busy doctoring these films, these frames. But fortunately, William Cooper got an original copy, and he had it analyzed. It shows absolutely the driver did the shooting. Another interesting thing is that in the JFK film with Oliver Stone, who is also a Jesuit temple coadjutor, that in the Oliver Stone film, in the JFK film, they leave out the driver when they focus in on the shooting.
Good point.
Why did they cut out the driver?
That's a good point. I hadn't noticed that.
They cut out the driver in the shooting, that's right, because he did the shooting. The other thing is... the purpose of the movie, then, which presents an awful lot of information that jives with what you're saying here, but the purpose of that film, then, would be what? To create unrest in the country, to move the white middle class to revolution. Because to have a successful revolution, you must include the middle class. And so what the Jesuits are doing is they are driving the historic white Protestants and the white Roman Catholics into a right-wing fascist faction to ultimately then gain control of the government and do exactly in America what they did in Germany. That's why they get it, no answers. The other thing is, Oliver Stone, just like Mark Lane, that coadjutor, that Jesuit coadjutor, Jewish Jesuit coadjutor, removes all attention away from the storm drain, which a killing shot did come from, to the grassy knoll. And this was in violation of all the investigation that Garrison had discovered. Now, Jim Garrison was an honest man. He was there. He had agents in Dallas trying to find out what went on. One of those agents was Roger Craig, the deputy sheriff, who later was shot with a rifle after he was run off the road, got a broken back, and a series of other things happened to him where they wanted to kill him. But it was Roger Craig that said they found a Mauser on the 6th floor depository. It was not a Mannlicher Garcano. It was a Mauser. and it was a .45 slug that they found on the other side of the curve. Those two things right there completely do away with any case against Lee Harvey Oswald.
Absolutely.
There is no case. And so Garrison knew there was no case against Oswald. That's why they eliminated Oswald using FBI informant Ruby, so that they wouldn't have a trial or anything like that. So Garrison found out all these details, and ultimately leads to Knight of Malta, Clay Shaw. But that's why. So we have coadjutor Oliver Stone, who then repaves the road in Dallas for his movie, and he further covers up the drain. The storm drain. He makes it smaller than what it was.